Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about how I believe the zodiac sign Leo can manipulate you, and this does apply and pertain to the sun, moon, and ascendant. Now, I think when I look at Leo, I think they could simply manipulate through their sheer will and their dominance and their general nature. It could be done a lot just through their overpowering presence. Their presence alone can be very intimidating and imposing. Actor Steven Seagal is a Leo ascendant, certainly one. Someone you wouldn't want to meet in a dark alley, so to speak. He has obviously good, tremendous fighting skills as well. But that being said, also you look at another Donald Trump as somebody that is very, has a lot of presence. It's really hard, to see, as far as being oblivious to a Leo when they enter a room. They, again, can be very imposing. They have often very good presence and very good, they're very charismatic as well. And another thing, too, when you look at like Hulk Hogan, who has the sun in Leo, and I believe a Leo ascendant as well, really exemplifies this Leo presence, and there's just something about them that could be very imposing and intimidating, just their sheer presence alone, and that could really get you to do what they want right there. But when you look at Leo as well, Leo also, you really they just the fact that they will try to do things to let you know that they feel they can dominate you. And it could be even through sports. You look at former NBA player Reggie Miller, who has a Leo moon. He was notorious for trash talking, as many of you that follow pro basketball know. And he would try to get in their players' heads and say, try to let him think that at least that he was the superior athlete. In many cases he was, when he was guarding somebody one-on-one. Often that whoever it was he was going up against one-on-one in an NBA game, whoever he was guarding and whoever was defending him, he generally was going to be the superior athlete anyway, because he was one of the best players at that time and probably of all time as well. Now, the thing about it is Reggie Miller has his moon again in Leo in the 7th house of open adversaries and competition. Again, notorious for trash-talking opponents. Leo is about ego. And the thing about it is that Leo, how they can manipulate, given that their egos can be shattered relatively quickly and easily, I believe, they seem to have an innate understanding of how to damage and hurt another person's ego. There were a couple examples that come to mind. I think with Reggie Miller, he provoked Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. What happened was one moment where Reggie Miller apparently said on, I don't know if it was on a TV or radio show or something about that Kobe Bryant couldn't be better, that he could not beat Michael Jordan on Michael Jordan's worst day, and Kobe's best day would not surpass Michael Jordan's worst day. So basically, I don't know if those were the exact words, but you understand what I'm saying. And the thing about it is, Kobe took offense to it, and they wound up after a game, and Kobe Bryant hauled off and hit Reggie Miller. And they went at it, and they were grappling with each other on the scorer's table, and then there was another moment before that, maybe about 10 years prior to that, that many of you that follow pro basketball know that Reggie Miller got into a physical confrontation with legendary NBA player Michael Jordan. And Reggie had said something to Jordan apparently that provoked him. Reggie could be a provocateur, so to speak, and he knew how to get in people's heads. He even did it to Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan hauled off and hit him. So the thing about it is Leos will try to get you often out of your game. Leo can be connected with sports, so they are the ones that could be the ones that can either elevate your game or maybe do the opposite to you. Another thing is that when I look at Leos too, and as odd as this may sound, Leos can manipulate perhaps through their near indefatigable, inexorable energy. I mean, give an example, sports competition. I had a friend one time with a Leo son, and he was in a one-on-one basketball game with somebody. And apparently, what he did was he was able to wear the other person out, tire that person out on perhaps the offensive and defensive end. And ultimately, he emerged victorious and won the game. Excuse me a second, people. Anyway, Leos will get you to expend much energy on what have you, and they really and because Leos are about very strong energy. Again, Leo is ruled by the sun. They can, I mean, they are about often an abundance of energy. Leo and Aries, I would say of all the zodiac signs, they probably are the most energetic. Now, also, I mean, sometimes it's just with their general ferocity, they could manipulate, they can intimidate, because Leos can be known for that legendary temper. Kevin Green was a former NFL player, has a Leo sun and moon, and he let out a pretty vociferous roar, I believe. One time he went after I think it was an assistant coach. In one game, he got angry at the coach for some reason, and then just basically charged him. And I remember that he was grabbing onto the coach. And the thing about it is, Leos, they really, in terms of when they're angry, they're generally not going to hold back, and they will often just intimidate you just through just by how they're basically acting, their general demeanor. They are ones that are can be in charge, so to speak, even in certain cases when they might be in a subordinate or subservient role. Leos will really can manipulate too by just simply reminding you of who's in control. And if you're as far as, especially if they are in a position of authority. Now, Leos often, like the other two fire signs, Aries and Sagittarius, could be well suited for authority positions. Leo can often be in control of most situations. Now, the thing is, you look at Leo. I think too, their exorbitant creativity often helps them manipulate situations to their advantage and emerge victorious. They could be triumphant in those situations because of their creative prowess. Now, there's a good example. I was watching a Forensic Files episode one time, and there was a forensics worker, Herb McDowell, I believe his name was. He has a son in Leo. I think he's a classic example of this never say die Leo will and mentality. And he somehow, through the use of some rope, harness, and apparatus, he was able to simulate a theoretical manner of death. And somebody wound up, and ultimately wound up extricating a person from perhaps extensive jail time, exonerating them. And this perhaps played a vital role in doing so. Leos, I mean, it's that never say die Leo will and mentality. I think pride prevents them often from being conquered and defeated. They'll take a loss like that, not being able to resolve something, as a more personal blow than the other zodiac signs on average, again, due to their ego and their pride. And also, too, Leo may often remind you of how generous and magnanimous they are. This could be another means of how they can manipulate. They could be like, oh, gee, how could you do all this to me after all the generosity and kindness I've shown you? And also, Leo essentially, I think, will tell you somehow, in their own way, I mean, I'm going to do what I want to do as long as I'm helping you. Now, what I'm saying is, if they're in a situation where they're helping you out, and you're really, you're pretty much under their auspices or control or what have you, they will, they feel this gives them sometimes a right to be difficult because they figure, well, I'm going to help you. This is what you're going to have to deal with. Sometimes this could be a manipulation tactic to motivate you to get yourself in a situation when you're not being helped by them, so to speak, and you kind of extricate yourself from that and wind up trying maybe to do more for yourself. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. Anyway, well, the thing about it is, and Leo too may often resort to some kind of recalcitrant nature or acting belligerent, giving unprovoked derogatory remarks. In doing so, that kind of, it's letting you know that they're in control, and unfortunately, in some cases, there may be no other choice but to put up with it. Or, as I stated, I mean, it could be the motivational tool to manipulate you, so to speak, to become less dependent on them. And they may not actually come out and say they don't want to deal with you much anymore, but that could be kind of the way they may convey that message. So, anyway. Also, too, I think another way that that Leo can, as far as manipulative, they can, some cases they may buy you extravagant gift or gifts to maybe soften you up because they want you, because they may actually need something from you. Also, too, it's important to look at the house cusp Scorpio falls on in a chart, as this could be the area or sector in life where one may be most proficient in the art of manipulation, so to speak. Now, Scorpio often falls on the 4th house cusp in a solar or natal chart for Leo. Now, Leo manipulation may come and be emphasized with family members and people they're close to home with. Now, Leo can be notorious for having a domineering nature. I think what it is they may find it easy to control those that are close to them. This is an easy mark for them as far as dominating people go. Leo, in a very negative manifestation, may say, really, if they're in control of, say, a family situation and they're housing you, say, they may resort to saying, well, something like, if you don't pay me more money, I will throw you out. They'll issue ultimatums. They may say, if you don't like it, then, that's it. Then go. They will let you know who's in control. And a positive note, I mean, I think when I look at that, and Scorpio often falling on the 4th house cusp in a solar natal chart for Leo, they often are able to control and able to basically manipulate their end of life or latter part of life situation very well, because pride will often curtail or prohibit Leo from being in a real adverse or negative situation in that part of their life. They could be generally fortunate, and this may hold true for that part of their life as well. Now, it's also important to look at the house cusp Pisces falls on in a solar natal chart, is this could be the area where one may be most apt to be deceptive or duplicitous, and of course this could be tied into manipulation. Now, Pisces will often fall on the 8th house cusp in a solar natal chart for Leo. Now, in some cases, in a very negative manifestation, Leo may be deceptive in terms of a shared resources scenario or situation. A lot of this could be attributed to their often extravagant nature. And don't get me wrong, Leo can often be very generous and magnanimous. It's often the other way around. A lot of times people will often use Leo for a shared resources situation, and their assets start to dissipate as a result often. But in other instances, Leo may wind up hooking up with somebody else in a shared resources situation and getting an intimate relationship with somebody, and they may wind up using up the credit card from the other person. And a lot of this is because it could be due to their extravagant nature. They may not have, in some cases, much themselves, so they might zap someone else of their funds. Sometimes an extravagant nature can leave them in a situation, of course, and again, it ties into having little funds at times. This could result in fallacious tax returns or filing or some kind of insurance fraud, but these aren't isolated cases, though, of course. And because Leo sometimes can have difficulty living within their own income due to the fact they may often want to live large and splurge frequently. Thought was interesting. There was something I saw on I think it was an Investigation Discovery show, and there was someone named Doris Moore, and she has her son in Leo, and she connected with somebody by the name of Abraham Shakespeare, I believe his last name was, and he wound up getting like 17 million in one lump sum in a lottery winning, and she connected with him, and she offered to manage his money, pretty much. And what happened was one day, Abraham Shakespeare inquired with her, I believe, basically, I can't get access to my funds or what have you, what's going on? And Doris Moore, the Sun and Leo lady, said, okay, I'm going to take care of this. I'll get you your funds or whatever. And she winds up going into a safe. She pulls out a gun and shoots Abraham Shakespeare. Well, with this is very isolated, but what happens with some Leos, some cases, they could show their manipulation strongly in a shared resources situation. And though Leo can often be very generous and magnanimous, sometimes what happens is it works the other way because they have this, again, can go back to the overly extravagant nature. It could be the fact that they just want to live so large and have so much they just can't have enough money. They want to have that money to get the most expensive items, things that are upscale. And again, this was a case in this was a very nefarious Leo as well at work. And and of course what I'm describing in this situation was very exceptional, you could say. But Leo going to a very nefarious or malevolent Leo, that could be something that could happen with them. So anyway, and I think too, going back again with the Pisces often falling on the 8th house cusp in a solar natal chart for Leo. Leo is not necessarily promiscuous, but I think what it is that the fact they're so generous, they could be generous in many ways, and it could even be connected with their exorbitant sexual appetite. If the sexual partner that Leo's with or connected with is not satisfying Leo for whatever reason, Leo may seek greener pastures, so to speak, and maybe see somebody on the side perhaps, and this leads to the duplicity and deception in a sexual relationship, because Leo might wind up getting somebody on the sly, so to speak, and while they're still with this significant other or this person that they're supposedly loyal to. So those are anyway, those are some things to look at as far as how Leo can manipulate. Anyway, people, that will conclude this YouTube astrological segment on how Leo manipulates you. And stay tuned next time, where I'm going to be talking about how Virgo manipulates you. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel, but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.